She acts fine, but inside she becomes restless in a way she can't explain. On the surface, she looks like the same woman. She still goes to work, still posts, still laughs with friends, still carries herself with that calm, guarded energy that made you think she didn't need anyone. But what you don't see is what happens when she's alone. What you don't see is the nervous system shift that happens when she realizes she didn't just lose relationship. She lost someone who truly loved her without trying to control her. Because when an avoidant woman loses someone who loved her genuinely, the first thing she loses is her emotional leverage. She was used to having space whenever she wanted, and still having you in the background. She was used to being able to pull away and then return on her terms. She was used to controlling closeness, not being confronted by the finality of distance. So when you're gone, when your energy is no longer reachable, her body starts reacting before her mind can create a story to feel safe. And that reaction is restlessness. It shows up like a quiet agitation. She can't focus the same. The same routines don't hit the same. The things that used to distract her suddenly feel empty faster. She scrolls longer but feels less satisfied. She stays busy but feels more drained. She goes out, but the fun doesn't land the way it used to. It's like her brain keeps searching for a feeling it can't find, because the person who gave her emotional grounding is no longer available. And here's what's important: she may not label it as grief. Avoidants don't grieve the way most people do. They don't collapse outwardly at first. They collapse inwardly. They convert grief into movement. They convert pain into productivity. They convert loss into, I'm fine. Because fine is control, and control is safety. So she becomes busy, but it's not healthy busy. It's restless busy. She fills the calendar. She posts more. She changes little things: hair, routines, gym habits, social plans, as if rearranging the outside will calm the inside. But nothing fully works. Because the missing isn't just missing you. The missing is missing the regulation your love provided. You were the one who made emotional life easier, even when she acted like it was too much. Your consistency gave her system something stable to lean on. Your patience gave her room to feel safe, without admitting she needed safety. You were the quiet emotional home she pretended she didn't require. And when that home disappears, the avoidant doesn't immediately feel heartbreak like a movie scene. She feels dysregulation. That dysregulation shows up in small signs. She might wake up at odd hours and reach for her phone. She might feel a sudden heaviness in the evening for no obvious reason. She might feel irritated with people who did nothing wrong. She might overreact to small stress. She might feel overwhelmed by things she used to handle easily. Because emotional suppression takes energy, and now she's using more energy than ever to keep herself from feeling what she actually feels. And this is where the inner conflict begins. One part of her wants to deny everything. I'm fine. It wasn't that serious. We weren't compatible. I needed space. That part is her armor. But another part of her is noticing the truth in her body, the quiet ache, the strange emptiness, the way her chest tightens when something reminds her of you. The way she suddenly remembers your voice, your warmth, your steady presence. This is why restlessness is the first stage. It's the nervous system trying to regain control. Because control for an avoidant isn't just a preference. It's a coping strategy. It's the method they used for years to avoid vulnerability, avoid shame, avoid feeling too much, avoid needing anyone. So when you leave and the control is gone, her system tries to create control through movement. More activity, more stimulation, more distraction, more proof to herself that she's okay. But inside, she's not okay. She's unsettled. And the more she tries to outrun it, the more it follows her. Because you can't outrun the truth that someone loved you deeply, and you didn't know how to hold it. You can't outrun the reality that you had someone who stayed calm through your coldness, someone who tried to understand your distance, someone who offered love without demanding you become perfect overnight. The restlessness becomes even sharper when she realizes you're not chasing anymore. When she checks and you're not reacting. When she posts and you don't bite. When she goes quiet and you don't panic. That's when her nervous system registers the dynamic has changed. The safety of, I can pull away and they'll still be there, is gone. And that loss of safety doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like a quiet alarm going off in her chest. She may never tell you this. She may never admit it to anyone. But this is the beginning of the fall apart. Not tears, not dramatic confession. Just a woman who looks calm on the outside, but inside can't settle. Because she's starting to realize she didn't lose a game. She lost a person who truly loved her. She rewrites the story in her head. And then she can't stop replaying you anyway. This is the second thing an avoidant woman does after realizing she lost someone who truly loved her. She tries to protect her ego with a narrative, but her nervous system keeps pulling her back into the truth. Because when an avoidant woman loses real love, the loss doesn't just hurt her heart. It threatens her identity. She has spent years building an image of herself as self-sufficient, unbothered, independent, emotionally fine. She's trained herself to believe that needing someone is weakness. That closeness is dangerous. That dependence leads to disappointment. So when you leave, especially when you leave calmly, firmly, and finally, she doesn't just feel sadness. She feels exposed. And exposure triggers shame. So she does what avoidance systems do best. She tries to regain safety through explanation. She starts rewriting the story in a way that makes the loss easier to tolerate. She tells herself you were too emotional, too demanding, too sensitive, too intense. She tells herself the relationship was a lot. She tells herself she needed space. You didn't understand her. You were pushing for too much. Sometimes she even tells herself she did you a favor by staying away. These stories are not always conscious lies. They're protective distortions. The mind creates them to reduce guilt and keep her from feeling like the villain in her own life. And for a while, the story works. It numbs her. It gives her a sense of control. It helps her sleep. It helps her walk into the day without feeling the full weight of what happened. It allows her to talk to friends casually, like, yeah, it just didn't work out. Without admitting, I lost something real and I don't know how to handle it. But then the replay begins, quietly, persistently. And this replay is where the narrative starts cracking. Because even if she tells herself you were the problem, her body remembers the moments you were pure. The moments you tried. The moments you showed up without conditions. She remembers how you listened when she was overwhelmed. How you softened your tone when she got cold. How you were patient when she gave you crumbs. How you loved her in ways she didn't even fully understand at the time. And those memories don't match the story she's telling herself. So her mind starts looping. She'll replay old conversations and realize you weren't attacking her. You were asking for clarity. She'll replay your texts and realize you weren't demanding. You were reaching. She'll replay the moments you cried and realize you weren't being dramatic. You were in pain. And the scariest part is this: she'll realize her distance didn't make you calmer. It made you emptier. Her silence didn't make the relationship safer. It made you stop trusting. Her avoidance didn't protect love, it starved it. This stage can be brutal because it creates emotional whiplash inside her. One moment she feels justified. The next moment she feels guilt. One moment she feels free. The next moment she feels lonely. One moment she tells herself, I'm better off. And the next moment she remembers you were the one person who made her feel safe without trying to control her. And she doesn't want to admit that, because admitting it means admitting she made a mistake. It means admitting she mishandled something precious. It means admitting she wasn't as emotionally strong as she pretended to be. So she tries to rewrite again, but the replay keeps returning. This is why avoidant regret is delayed. They don't feel it fully when they lose you. They feel it when they can no longer distort what you were. They feel it when the new distractions feel empty. They feel it when the people around them don't touch their heart the way you did. They feel it when they realize that the love they lost wasn't replaceable, because it wasn't just attraction, it was emotional safety. Now the replay starts getting specific. She remembers the exact moment you stopped arguing. The exact moment your tone changed. The exact moment you stopped asking for reassurance and started giving yourself reassurance. She remembers your calmness, and that calmness scares her, because calmness means you're not emotionally hooked anymore. And that's when the regret deepens into something that feels like obsession. Not obsession with you as a person, but obsession with the what if? What if she had handled your feelings differently? What if she had stayed present? What if she had apologized instead of withdrawing? What if she had matured sooner? But here's the hard truth about this phase: replaying is not repairing. She can miss you and still not change. She can regret and still not show up. She can feel guilty and still avoid accountability. Because the same fear that made her withdraw in the relationship can still make her withdraw now. Fear of vulnerability, fear of confrontation, fear of not being enough. So she stays stuck between the story that protects her and the memories that expose her. And the longer she stays in that conflict, the more she realizes something painful. She didn't lose you because you didn't love her. She lost you because she couldn't hold love without trying to control it. She starts hovering without fully coming back, and this is where it gets dangerous for your heart. Because the third thing an avoidant woman often does after realizing she lost someone who truly loved her is not a clean apology and a mature return. It's a cautious orbit, a slow circling, a breadcrumb trail that keeps her emotionally connected to you without forcing her to face the full discomfort of repair. This hovering happens because she's split in two internally. One side of her misses you, misses the safety, misses the warmth she didn't know how to value when it was steady and available. The other side of her is terrified of the consequences of coming back. Coming back means admitting she was wrong. Coming back means facing your feelings. Coming back means risking rejection. Coming back means being asked for consistency, for accountability, for emotional presence. And that is the exact thing her nervous system has been trained to avoid. So she chooses the safest route. Partial contact, a simple, "Hey," message with no real purpose. A reaction to your story, a like on an old post, a random question that could have been answered by Google, a nostalgic line like, "This reminded me of you." These are not always manipulative on purpose, but they are protective by design. They allow her to test your availability without exposing her vulnerability. They allow her to see if you still respond, if you still soften, if you still light up for her. They give her a hit of reassurance without the risk of the hard conversation. Hovering is emotional testing disguised as casualness. If you respond warmly, she feels relief. It calms the panic of loss. It tells her the door might still be open. It tells her she still matters. But then a second fear rises immediately: closeness. Expectation. The pressure to follow through. The fear that now she'll have to talk about what happened. The fear that now she'll have to carry your emotions instead of escaping them. And that's why she might pull back again. Not because she wanted to hurt you, but because she cannot hold the emotional weight of what she started. This is why hovering feels like whiplash. One day she's sweet. The next day she's distant. One week she's curious. The next week she disappears. It keeps you in a loop of hope and anxiety. Your nervous system starts scanning your phone, interpreting her every tiny move as meaning. You start wondering, is she coming back? Did I say something wrong? Why did she message and then go silent? And the truth is, it's not about what you said. It's about the fact that she wants connection, but she wants it without vulnerability. This phase becomes even stronger when she senses you're moving on. If you become quieter, calmer, less reactive, she feels the door closing, and that triggers urgency. Not always pure love, but fear of losing access. Fear of becoming irrelevant. Fear that she miscalculated and you actually left for real. So she reaches out again. But again, not fully. Just enough to keep the thread alive, because the thread matters to her. That thread is her safety net. Avoidants often rely on the belief that the person who loves them will stay emotionally available, even if they don't show up consistently. They don't say it out loud, but the system depends on it. So when you stop chasing, hovering becomes her way of checking if her safety net still exists. And this is where you need to see the difference between remorse and relief seeking. Remorse comes with ownership. Remorse says, I handled your feelings wrong. Remorse says, I see how I hurt you. Remorse says, I'm willing to have the conversation and rebuild slowly. Relief seeking says, I miss you, but avoids the repair conversation. Relief seeking reaches out only when lonely, only when triggered, only when you seem to be moving on. Relief seeking gives crumbs, not commitment. Hovering can also show up as friend energy. She might try to keep you close as a friend, keeping access to your attention while avoiding the responsibility of being your partner. She may say things like, I don't want to lose you, but without offering any real change. And that line can be a trap if you're still emotionally attached, because it sounds like love, but it functions like control. It keeps you available without giving you safety. Now listen carefully. Hovering is not proof she doesn't care. It's proof she's conflicted. But conflict is not commitment, and your healing can't be built on interpreting breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs keep you emotionally hungry. Breadcrumbs keep you hoping. Breadcrumbs keep you stuck in the very dynamic that wounded you: uncertainty. So the power move in this phase is calm clarity. Not coldness. Not chasing. Not long emotional messages. Calm clarity. You respond in a way that doesn't reward confusion and doesn't punish vulnerability. You can say something like, I'm open to a real conversation and real repair. I'm not available for on and off contact. That one line does something profound. It removes the game. It forces reality. It tells her that access requires accountability. That connection requires consistency. That your heart is not a place she gets to visit when she feels lonely and leave when it gets uncomfortable. Because if she truly lost someone who loved her, and she truly regrets it, she won't just hover. She'll step forward. She'll tolerate discomfort. She'll choose repair over control. And if she can't do that, then hovering isn't love returning. It's fear trying to keep a door open without walking through it. She gets triggered by your peace and independence. And this is where the regret becomes urgent. Because the fourth thing an avoidant woman often does after realizing she lost someone who truly loved her is not simply missing you. It's reacting to the version of you she can no longer control. Your calmness becomes the loudest message. Your boundaries become the consequence. Your glow-up becomes the proof that you stopped waiting. And for an avoidant nervous system that is used to regulating through distance and leverage, your peace can feel like an emotional earthquake. Let's be honest about what changes when you finally detach. When you stop chasing, you stop feeding the dynamic. When you stop explaining, you stop offering free access to your emotional energy. When you stop reacting to her hot and cold, you remove the reward her nervous system used to rely on. And even if she never meant to manipulate you consciously, the pattern still existed. She pulled away, you reached. She got overwhelmed, you softened. She went silent, you tried harder. That cycle gave her a kind of control over closeness. It allowed her to feel safe without fully showing up. So when you become calm, when you become quiet, when you move on without drama, it doesn't just surprise her. It threatens her internal safety system. Because now she can't predict you. She can't pull a lever and get the old response. The old buttons don't work anymore. And that's what triggers her. This trigger can show up as jealousy, but not always the obvious kind. It can be subtle and sharp. She might suddenly start checking your social media more. She might ask mutual friends about you. She might watch your stories the second you post. She might suddenly appear in places she knows you'll be. She might send a message that feels emotionally loaded, but still vague enough to protect her ego. She might start acting warmer than she ever acted when she had you. This is not always love waking up. Many times, it's urgency waking up. Because your peace tells her something terrifying. You are no longer emotionally dependent on her. And avoidants often confuse being needed with being loved. When someone needs them, they feel important. When someone is calm without them, they feel replaceable. So your independence becomes a mirror that reflects her fear of irrelevance. This is the moment where the avoidant woman's regret can become intense. She starts thinking, what if I actually lost him? Not, what if we broke up? But, what if he's truly done? She starts imagining you giving your love to someone else, someone who actually meets you emotionally, someone who doesn't leave you in confusion. And that thought hits her pride, but it also hits something deeper: grief. Because she's forced to realize that the love you offered was real, and she treated it like it was unlimited. Now, here's the part that can confuse you. When an avoidant feels triggered by your peace, she may come back with strong emotion. She may text more. She may call. She may act possessive. She may say things like, I miss you so much. I can't stop thinking about you. I made a mistake. And in your heart, you might think, finally, she's realized. But this is the phase where you must separate urgency from readiness. Urgency is emotional. Readiness is behavioral. Urgency shows up when she feels threatened. Readiness shows up when she's willing to repair. Urgency wants instant closeness. Readiness accepts slow rebuilding. Urgency wants reassurance. Readiness offers consistency. Urgency says, don't leave. Readiness says, I'll do the work so you feel safe. Because an avoidant can feel a surge of regret and still not have the emotional capacity to sustain intimacy once the threat is gone. The moment you soften, the moment you return, the moment she feels safe again, her old fears can reactivate closeness, responsibility, expectation. And then the cycle can restart. That's why this phase is so dangerous. It can pull you back in with intensity, then drop you into silence again once her nervous system calms down. So your job is not to punish her for being triggered. Your job is to stay anchored in your standards. Your standards are the bridge between love and safety. You can be compassionate and still require consistency. You can be open and still demand clarity. You can say, I hear you, without handing your heart back immediately. If she reaches out because your peace triggered her, the healthiest response is calm, grounded, and clear. I'm open to a real conversation. I need accountability and consistent effort. I'm not doing on and off. That sentence does two things. It protects your nervous system, and it reveals her intentions. Because if she truly grew, she won't punish you for being careful. She will respect your boundaries. She will understand that trust doesn't rebuild through words. It rebuilds through repeated, steady behavior. She will stay present when the conversation gets uncomfortable. She will validate your feelings without debating them. She will show up when it's not convenient. And if she didn't grow, she will get frustrated. She will call you cold. She will rush you. She will disappear again. Not because you did anything wrong, but because urgency was never love. It was fear of loss. This phase is the moment you learn the truth: your peace is powerful. Your independence is loud. And the moment your calmness triggers an avoidant, you realize something important. You were never hard to love. You were simply too real for someone who was still living in emotional defense. She feels regret in waves and reaches a crossroads. And this is the final truth about an avoidant woman. After losing someone who truly loved her, she either grows or she repeats. Phase 5 is where everything becomes undeniable. The distractions don't work. The hovering doesn't soothe her anymore. Your peace keeps triggering her. Her old stories can't fully protect her. And now, regret stops being a passing emotion and becomes a heavy, recurring storm that visits her again and again. Regret in an avoidant doesn't arrive cleanly. It doesn't show up like a movie apology with tears and perfect words. It shows up in waves, sometimes small, sometimes crushing, sometimes quiet, sometimes urgent. A wave hits when she's alone at night and the silence feels too big. A wave hits when something reminds her of you. A place, a smell, a song, a phrase you used. A wave hits when she sees someone getting loved the way you loved her, and she realizes she didn't know how to hold it. A wave hits when she thinks about how steady you were, how patient you were, how you tried to communicate instead of punish. And the hardest waves hit when she realizes you didn't leave because you stopped caring. You left because she made you feel unsafe for too long. This stage is where she starts remembering your feelings differently. Before, she labeled your emotions as pressure. Now she sees your emotions as truth. Before, she saw your tears as inconvenience. Now she sees your tears as love trying to survive. Before, she heard your needs as demands. Now she finally understands they were basic reassurance, consistency, clarity, respect. And the moment she sees that, regret becomes painful, because it exposes the unfairness of how she handled you. It forces her to admit that you were not asking for perfection. You were asking not to be left alone in your pain. But regret doesn't automatically create change. In fact, regret often triggers shame, and shame is what makes avoidance run. Shame says, "I'm the problem." Shame says, "I ruin good things." Shame says, "I'm not built for love." And if she believes that shame, she'll retreat again, not because she doesn't care, but because she can't tolerate being seen as the one who hurt you. She would rather disappear than face the mirror. That's why this stage is a crossroads. One path is accountability. The other path is repetition. Accountability means she stops trying to manage the narrative and starts owning the impact. It means she reaches out with clarity, not crumbs. It means she doesn't just say, "I miss you," but says, "I understand what I did, and I want to repair it." Accountability means she can sit in the uncomfortable conversation without getting defensive. She can hear the truth about how her silence affected you without punishing you for saying it. She can validate your emotions without trying to shrink them. She can offer consistency, not intensity, because intensity is easy when fear is high, but consistency is the real proof of change. Repetition is the opposite. Repetition is when she reaches out only when the regret becomes unbearable, then retreats when closeness returns. Repetition is when she wants relief, not repair. Relief sounds like, "Can we just move forward? Why are you bringing up the past? I said sorry." Relief wants you to soothe her guilt so she can feel okay again, without changing the pattern that created the guilt. Repetition gives you a warm week, then cold silence. A sweet message, then disappearance. A surge of affection, then emotional distance when the relationship begins to feel real again. And the reason repetition happens is because she still hasn't built emotional tolerance. Emotional tolerance is the ability to sit in discomfort without escaping. It's the ability to hold another person's feelings without shutting down. It's the ability to stay present when intimacy rises. Without that skill, she can love you in her heart and still fail you in her behavior. Now for you, this final phase is where you must stay wise. Because when an avoidant woman feels regret in waves, she may come back with strong emotion. She may finally sound sincere. She may finally show vulnerability. And you might feel relief, because you've been waiting for acknowledgement. But acknowledgement is not rebuilding. Emotion is not consistency. Tears are not proof. The only proof is repeated behavior over time. So your standard becomes simple. If you want access to me, you have to bring safety. Safety means clarity. Safety means communication. Safety means accountability. Safety means you don't vanish when things get uncomfortable. Safety means you don't punish me for having feelings. Safety means you don't return just to calm your loneliness, and then leave when you feel regulated again. This is also where your power is complete, because you stop needing her regret to validate you. You stop waiting for her to finally understand. You understand yourself. You know what you felt was real. You know you weren't too much. You know you were reacting to being mishandled. And whether she grows or repeats, you are no longer available for the cycle. If she chooses accountability, her regret becomes transformation. If she chooses repetition, her regret becomes a lesson she learns too late. Either way, your healing comes from one decision. You will never again beg someone to treat your feelings with care. The sixth phase is the part most people forget to talk about. Because it isn't about what she does anymore. It's about what you do when she finally realizes what she lost. This is where your standards become the deciding factor between a real rebuild and the same old cycle wearing a new mask. Because when an avoidant woman feels regret deeply, she can come back with emotion, urgency, sweetness, even vulnerability. But if you don't have a clear boundary, you'll mistake intensity for change, and you'll step right back into the dynamic that broke you. This phase begins when she starts approaching you in a way that feels more direct. Maybe she admits she misses you. Maybe she finally acknowledges she handled your feelings wrong. Maybe she tries to talk, seriously, and your heart will want to believe it, because you've wanted that recognition for so long. You've wanted to feel seen. You've wanted to hear, "I get it now." But your nervous system doesn't need words anymore. It needs safety. Safety is not a speech. Safety is a pattern. So the sixth keynote is this: you become the gatekeeper of access. Not out of ego, not out of revenge, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. You stop giving closeness to someone who can't hold closeness. You stop rewarding breadcrumbs. You stop letting guilt, nostalgia, or loneliness pull you back into uncertainty. You become calm, clear, and consistent, because that is the only language an avoidant system truly understands. Not begging, not long emotional essays, not repeated explaining. Calm clarity. Calm clarity sounds like, "I'm open to a real conversation, but I need accountability and consistency. I'm not doing hot and cold again." That sentence is powerful because it doesn't attack her, but it also doesn't abandon yourself. It sets the standard without drama. It tells her exactly what the door requires: repair, presence, effort. And here's what happens next. If her regret is real and she's capable of growth, your boundary won't scare her away. It will sober her. It will ground her. She'll understand that you're not playing games, you're protecting your heart. She will stay in the conversation when it gets uncomfortable. She will answer direct questions without turning vague. She will listen without trying to debate your feelings. She will stop asking you to move on quickly and start asking what you need to rebuild trust slowly. She won't demand reassurance. She will offer it. She won't rush intimacy. She will earn it. But if her regret is mostly panic, mostly ego, mostly fear of losing access, your boundary will expose it fast. She'll get impatient. She'll try to make you feel guilty for being careful. She'll call you cold. She'll say you're holding on to the past. She'll want you to skip the hard conversation and go straight to comfort. That's the old pattern trying to reset. Because an avoidant who hasn't truly grown wants relief, not repair. They want to feel better, not be better. This is why your response matters more than her words. You don't measure change by how emotional she gets. You measure change by how she behaves when your boundaries are real. Can she handle the fact that you won't hand her your full heart instantly? Can she tolerate a slow rebuild without disappearing? Can she show up consistently when the excitement fades and the real work begins? Because the most dangerous moment is not when she comes back crying. The most dangerous moment is when things start feeling normal again. That's when avoidant fear often returns. That's when closeness starts feeling heavy. That's when the temptation to pull away resurfaces. So you protect yourself by moving slowly, not emotionally. You don't reattach because she says the right words. You observe her nervous system over time. Does she communicate when she's overwhelmed? Or does she vanish? Does she repair after conflict? Or does she punish with silence? Does she validate your feelings, or does she minimize them when she gets uncomfortable? Consistency is the proof. Repetition is the truth. And you also protect yourself by ending the habit of over-explaining. Your feelings are not a courtroom case. You don't need a perfect argument to deserve care. If she wants to rebuild, she doesn't need you to convince her. She needs to choose to show up. The moment you find yourself writing long paragraphs to make her understand, you're back in the old role of carrying the relationship emotionally. In this phase, you speak clearly once, and then you watch actions. This keynote is also where you reclaim the deeper lesson. You can love someone and still refuse uncertainty. You can care and still walk away from inconsistency. You can be compassionate and still require safety. Because love without emotional safety is not love. It's a slow erosion of self-trust. And you didn't go through all that pain just to become available for a new version of the same pattern. If she truly lost someone who loved her, and she truly wants to grow, she will meet the standard. If she can't meet it, then her regret is just the feeling of losing access, not the willingness to become safe. And you don't build your future on someone's temporary emotion. You build it on what you can count on when things get hard, when intimacy rises, when fear gets triggered, when life isn't romantic, when the relationship requires maturity instead of chemistry,